Hello and welcome to another episode where I'll be talking about the top 10 best performances to ever be done on the hit TV show Glee. My name is Marcin Homie, content creator and the host of Marcin Homie's Recap and Review podcast, where I talk about TV, music, celebrities, and so much more. If this is your first time listening and if you're listening on Spotify, please make sure you follow the podcast as well as downloading this episode and also turning on the notification bell so you don't miss any drops when a new episode comes. And if you're watching this on YouTube, like a normal video, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of my uploads. And today we're doing something a little bit different on the podcast today, which I am so excited. So I'm a huge fan of the show Glee, as not only I think it's got some great storylines in it, but the music and performances in that show are absolutely fantastic. So with that in mind, and also I'm recently just joined the Glee subreddit not too long ago, which I really am enjoying. I think it's a great community sharing your thoughts on the show and the performances done. So I decided to go ahead and do what I think are the top 10 best performances ever done on the show, because there have been so many performances out there that have blown my mind. But I've got here my top 10 list on what I believe are the best performances ever done on the show. And I'd love to hear what you think in the comments below of the podcast, as well as the YouTube channel, the video if you're watching this on YouTube, because you don't know, I do this. So if you're hearing us on Spotify, you just hear the audio. And of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see the screen and everything. And also, please don't forget to follow me on my social media platforms, which is Instagram at masked_singer homie, and of course my YouTube channel, which is Masked Homie. You'll see it in the thumbnail podcast if you're listening to this on Spotify. So without any further ado, let's get into the top 10 best performances ever done on Glee. So we're kicking off the list at number 10, and we're starting off with a star who is unfortunately no longer with us, but we can still celebrate her unbelievable talent, and that is Back to Black, performed by Naya Rivera. Apologies for the mispronunciation. And honestly, just hearing her voice again, it's just so sad that we lost her talent so soon, because let me tell you, she absolutely performed this Amy Winehouse classic to another level. It was absolutely fantastic. And you know and basically she sang this, her character Samantha, she sang with this song in an attempt to win the only featured solo in nationals. But Jesse he said the song, it kind of lacked the emotional depth that Amy Winehouse gave to the song, and it kind of angered her. And then at the end of the performance, she really started to apparently foul mouth Jesse until Will actually got her to calm down. But let me tell you, she absolutely nailed this vocal performance, and she was honestly, I think she was so underrated, and she just had this no crap attitude, to her, which I thought was very cool. And honestly, I think, she has that really powerful, soulful voice. And, Amy Winehouse is a talent we lost far too soon, in my opinion. Just like, and also we lost Naya quite not too long, quite a few years ago, I think, which is just so sad, because she was someone who had real star potential. But I'm so glad we got to see this performance while she was on the show. And it just shows that her talent, even though she's no longer with her talent still lives on to this day. And for me, she'll be always remembered for this absolutely fantastic performance she gave. We're now at number 9 already, and here I have I Know Where I've Been, performed by Alex Newell. Now, if you don't know what this song is, it's actually from the hit musical Hairspray. And if you don't know what the song is kind of like, the context is, or if you haven't seen the musical or movie Hairspray, so the musical Hairspray is actually set in the 60s, where it's basically set in the 60s during the time where the civil rights era happened, for Black Americans. And where basically kind of like the era of Martin Luther King, for free speech and all that. Very powerful, and honestly really like powerful stuff as well. And the song featured in the musical Hairspray was the song I Know Where I've Been, performed by the incredible Queen Latifah, and she absolutely performs it amazingly. It just expresses pain, perseverance, and looking towards a hopeful, integrated future for often seen as like a pivotal moment of just. And it's very known for its gospel sound and just powerful notes. But this performance done by Alex was amazing. Like it's been performed many times by numerous artists, like Queen Latifah, of course. Jennifer Hudson has performed it as well, and the way Alex does this performance is just spine tingling. It's so like, and it's one of the songs that just draws the emotion out of you, especially with the message behind the song, and just and just honestly, it's one of the most powerful performances done on Glee, in my opinion. It gives me chills every time I listen to it, and Alex's range and voice is just not only fantastic, but the choir, the Boston Gay Men's Choir, added it into it. It's just, it takes it to a whole new level, and just for me, it's just one of those performances. And honestly, I don't think it's a performance talked about enough, because I think it's a very underrated performance in my opinion, and I think it's a song that anyone can relate to, no matter what. It's just it just kind of like it can resonate with people of any age, any person out there. Just honestly, and I just hope that yeah, it's just a fantastic performance overall. It's just, she gives it that kind of like Queen Latifah spin to it, and she really delivers a real vocal masterclass on it. And I just truly think it's an underrated performance that isn't talked about enough. We're now at number 8, and here I have probably the most powerful take on a very iconic song, and that is "I Want to Hold Your Hand," performed by Chris Colfer. Now, I'm a huge fan of the Beatles, and his character Kurt, he sings that iconic Beatles song, but he sings it in such a transforming like way that it just hits really deep, like. And basically his character Kurt, he sings this song to express his deep love for his dad, who is in a coma in the hospital after falling victim to a very near fatal heart attack. And while watching the performance, the new directions are shown, with very emotional expressions throughout the song, and even flashbacks of his dad as well. And I'm a huge fan of that song, "I Want to Hold Your Hand." I'm a huge fan of the Beatles myself, but my goodness me, this just takes the song to a whole different meaning. Like, I've never heard it. At the time when I first heard it, I never heard it in such a emotional and more like kind of transforming way. And I just think it's performances like this that I've always appreciated on Glee, because you get to hear songs that you wouldn't have expected to be so changing that kind of style before, and it's just it's quite incredible actually. And the way he performs this song is just transcending. Chris has got such a great voice, and is again his interpretation of the song is so captivating to listen to. Like, he's got that voice I could listen to on repeat on the radio over and over again. Just a very beautiful performance, and in a way, in a style that's performed so magnificently, and it really draws the emotions of. I'm sure it drew a lot of emotions to everyone who watched it, because it really was, and it still is for me, a very captivating performance in terms of emotion, captivation, if that's even a word, and just it just gives you that kind of goosebump feeling. Like, you get goosebumps, you get chills, and it just leaves you wanting more. And that is what I love seeing with this performance here. At number 7 is another star we unfortunately lost far too soon, but just like Naya, his talent still lives on today. And his most memorable performance for me was "I'll Stand By You," performed by the brilliant Corey Monteith. And again, it's a song. The song is originally by the Pretenders, the rock band, but so basically it's sung by Finn, which was Corey's character, when Kurt was basically trying to help him deal with teenage pregnancy and parental responsibility by kind of singing a ballad to him about it. And again, I love the song The Pretenders. Don't get me wrong. "I'll Stand By You." I mean that one. And the last time I remember it being a very powerful ballad was when Pearl did it. Okay, Gretchen Wilson on The Masked Singer earlier this year. But honestly, hearing Corey sing this is just beautiful. And he was such a good singer. Again, a talent we lost far too soon in the Glee community. And I wished he finished his Glee journey before he unfortunately passed away, because like season 5 and season 6, it just didn't feel right. It just didn't feel the same without him. And just it's just so sad that he's no longer with us. But again, like Naya, his talent lives on. His talent really lives on to this day. And just hearing him do this song is just in such a way. It's just wow, it's just so captivating. And I also love the duet version that Mercedes Johnson, aka Amber Riley, did with it. I think was it her own version? Was it the duet? I need to like figure that out later on. But going back to Corey's version, it's just absolutely fantastic to listen to, and just again his voice just draws all the emotion out of anyone that listens to it, and it's just really kind of just it takes you to the heartstrings. It really does, and it's performances like this on the show I just love seeing, because you get to see like this kind of side to someone that you don't get to see, and it really is a beautiful version and a beautiful rendition of a very iconic song that I love dearly. We're now at number 6, and here I'm going to talk about probably the most emotional performance I think the show's ever seen, and that was Make You Feel My Love, performed by Leah Michelle. And believe it or not, this was actually Leah Michelle's, basically her tribute to Corey, because, as you know, I can't remember what season this was, but quite soon after he passed, I think a few seasons. I need to do my research, but basically Leah, I can't remember her character, Rachel, that's her name, Rachel Berry. I've got my notes just to double check. So she performs this classic Adele song, basically as a dedication to Corey, and it just draws everything. Like, her interpretation is absolutely just transcending. And Adele, I mean, what a voice Adele has. She's an incredible artist. And, if you're going to do an Adele song, you need to do it right. And she performed this to a T, and just, you could feel the emotions out of this vocal performance she did. And just, for me, Leah's a very underrated singer, in my opinion. I don't think she gets enough credit. And also, this was none of them were acting. I think no, she literally sang this for Corey, and everyone was just in tears. I actually think they were. I think they were actual like emotional tears. I think the emotion was actually genuine when the others were watching. It's just, and it's one of those performances that really just draws you in. It makes you feel like in their shoes, what they're feeling at the moment, and it makes it even sadder to know that these are the cast, like, real emotions. Their real grief of losing their friend and castmate, because I could just tell Corey was just such a bright light to everybody, and to see her do this rendition as a dedication, and honestly, it really is just such a beautiful performance, and probably the most emotional and captivating performance I think the show's ever had, and just a very just powerful emotional performance. And for me, this was the most wonderful tribute to a wonderful cast member, who I think everybody adored so much. We're now at the halfway mark of the list. I can't believe that we're already at number 5 already. And the next performance I have at number 5 is a repeat, the same person who I talked about a little bit earlier on, and that is If I Die Young, performed by Naya Rivera. Again, a talent we lost far, far too soon. And her rendition of this song is, and it's also another tribute to Finn as well, because she basically lets out all the pain and hurt that she feels since, of course, Finn's death. And like I mentioned, I think everybody was moved, but was just heartbroken with Corey's passing. And she sings, "If I Die Young." Is that a Katy Perry? It's a song by the Perry Band. Okay, I need to think who it was there. I just have to think, who actually sings the song, because, and again, I think her interpretation of the song is just wonderful, and the fact she's the one who sang it, especially the lyrics, it just feels so different now, especially the incredible, the extremely how tragic her death was, and just, again, a talent we lost far too soon, and just, I just want to read a lyric I found here, which is, if I die young, sink me in the river. And she found Corey's anniversary, and she was, because I can't exactly remember what happened, but she was found somewhere near on the anniversary of Corey's passing, which makes it even more upsetting. And just, again, the way she interprets this song is just so beautiful, and I think the show did an absolutely wonderful tribute to Corey. As you know, I've mentioned this many times before, but you can tell she was massively, well, he was massively, both of them were massively adored by by everybody. And and it wasn't even scripted when she was breaking down. That was actually Naya's emotions. I'm so glad in a way they incorporated into the script, because it just made that even more kind of powerful, and it gives you that vulnerability. And again, Naya's talent will live on forever, as well as Corey's. Both of them may not be here with us now, but their talent for sure lives on to this day. Now we're at number 4, and another performance I don't think gets talked about too much in the Glee community, and that is Teenage Dream, the acoustic version performed by Darren Criss. And his interpretation, I think, of the classic Katy Perry song is just, again, this show it does amazing at taking songs and transforming them into like this very kind of like captivating style that you wouldn't expect. So it's performed by Darren Criss, and he performs it at callbacks, basically a karaoke bar, to Kurt, as he was upset about him and Kurt being so far apart, and for so long that Blaine cheated on him. And it's just a very beautiful song as well. This is essentially the only song on Glee that is like completely unedited and just raw. Like his voice, listening, you can tell Darren's voice is quite shaky and vulnerable, which makes it even more real, which is something I really like. I think it's a quite nice touch. And he was so into the role as well. You could feel the emotions, and just you could tell that he was trying to fight back the tears when doing this number. But it really is a great performance, and it marks the first time we actually get to see Blaine do a full performance on the piano rather than doing like smaller sections, because I think the other one, the normal Teenage Dream, he does it with the choir in the school. So this was a really beautiful performance, and I believe this was actually performed live, because sometimes they pre-record the songs in the studio, then they do it that way, which I can't really tell the difference, to be honest, because I just think it's the same. I just see it as the same way as if it's in the actual filming studio, and they do it. But still, the fact that this was so raw and unedited, it makes it even more kind of vulnerable in a way. And I think Darren Criss did a fantastic job of this song. It really is a fantastic performance from him, and I just, again, his voice is just fantastic, to say the least. We're now at the top 3, and here I have another performance by Lea Michele, which I think is just, for me, this is her best performance she's done on Glee out of all the episodes, and that is her rendition of the Celine Dion classic, It's All Coming Back to Me Now. And for me, out of all the performances Lea has done on the show, for me, this is probably her most powerful vocal-wise, and easily, for me, her best performance she's done on the show. Now, personally, I'm not the biggest fan of Celine Dion. I think she's very talented what she does. Of course, she's a huge star, and I can't deny her songs are very good, but they're just not to my personal cup of tea. But let me tell you, Lea Michele absolutely nailed this performance, and she sings this song basically hoping that Carmen will come and see her, but she loses her. Hopefully, eventually, midway through the performance, Carmen actually arrives in time, and Rachel kind of basically spots her and continues to perform the song. And just for me, Lea is just an amazing singer, and just it's one of these performances that is just so captivating to watch. I've said that probably a very few times in this episode, but my goodness me, she absolutely takes this song just to another level. And again, Celine Dion is an absolutely fantastic singer, and there's no denying that. But just again, the way she does this song is absolutely amazing. For me, I even at times I'm like, I can't even tell if it's Lea or it's Celine Dion, because it just sounds her voice is like something that belongs on the radio. It's just fantastic. Honestly, I think definitely one of the best performances vocal wise on Glee, and just again for me a breakout moment for Leah's character. She absolutely takes this song to a whole different level. And I mean, that song has been covered many times by many artists. Even, Danny Jones, he did on The Masked Singer in the UK, his version, which was fantastic. The Jeremy Jordan version is also really good. I mean, it's a song that's been done so many times by so many different artists. But in terms of like just how, in terms of like the rendition of the own style, she really takes the cake for that, and it's just an absolute masterclass of performance, if I say. So we're at number two now, and if I'm brutally honest with you guys, I almost had this at number one just because of how amazing it is. But between the two performances in my number one and number two, I just had to go with my personal opinion. But this does not take away of how incredible this performance was vocal wise, and that is, and I'm telling you, I'm not going, performed by Amber Riley. Now, if you're like me and you watched her on The Masked Singer America as the harp, and also in the UK as Jellyfish, looking back on her journey on The Masked Singer on both versions, the song I seriously wish she did on the show was this song from Dreamgirls, because let me tell you, this is, it takes this song into the stratosphere for me. Like, it is absolutely outstanding. And Amber, oh my goodness me, what a voice that girl has. Like, for me, she is one of the best singers on Glee, and I think one of the best singers of the whole cast, to be honest. Just the way she does the song. And by the way, that song is not an easy song to sing at all, because Jennifer Hudson did it in Dreamgirls, and I didn't think, for me, that is like the top there. That's kind of hard to like reach, in my opinion. But oh my goodness me, she absolutely knocked this performance out the park, and this is why I love this song, because it gives you everything doing this performance. And just, oh my god, it's basically in the choir. She sings in the choir room as the New Directions finalize their ballads for the sensational set list, which is one of the songs. And I just, every time I listen to her voice, I get goosebumps, and just, my goodness, she just, like like you can tell the reaction was just real. Like, even I believe the producer even said that she sang this in real time, and everyone's reactions were like, it was actually legit. Like, they were so proud of her, and good for her, because my god, just Amber is just an absolute phenomenon of a singer, phenomenon of a singer. Just the girl has just the most incredible voice. Just, I've heard her, back on The Masked Singer, and I recently watched her on Song Association, Elle Magazine's YouTube channel, and god, just the amount of soul and feeling she has in her vocals is captivating. And honestly, in any other list, if I were to do any other list in terms of, like, if this was just based on purely the greatest vocal performance ever on Glee, this would be number one for sure. But the number one performance I have, it just had to be there. But this, like, I was almost thinking of having this in contention to be at least tied number one. But despite it being at number two, it does not take away the fact that this is still an absolutely remarkable vocal performance. Now we are finally at number one, and for me, this performance I have here just had to be at the number one mark, because it truly is one of the best performances ever done on Glee in terms of vocal arrangement, and just, for me, it would have felt wrong to not have it at number one, and that is Dream On, performed by Matthew Morrison and Neil Patrick Harris. And again, for me, this was only fair to put this performance at number one, because this is, quite frankly, in my opinion, the best performance to ever be done on Glee. And I truly mean that, because I mean, Dream On, that is an absolutely belter of a song. And by the way, this had Neil Patrick Harris as a guest for this episode, which was so brilliant. And they basically did this duet as in a face-off, where they wanted to compete for the main role in the local community's production of Les Miserables, which is the musical in the West End. And let me tell you, like, in terms of, if I had to, if there was a word to describe absolute perfection, this would be it right here. Because not only Matthew and Neil have absolutely incredible voices, just the way they do this song individually, then the harmonies blending so well together. And by the way, And if I remember correctly, Matthew was actually was actually quite unwell during this performance, which is why his voice kind of had that rock grit to it. Which, to be honest, was kind of a lifesaver because that's what made this performance, even better because he had that grit to it. And Neil, my gosh, is just incredible. And not only that, but the insane high note that Neil does at the end absolutely just blows me away, and it just shows that the high falsetto that Steven Tyler had during that song, it really demonstrates that to a whole T. And and it's honestly the performance I always find myself going back to and watching it over and over again. That's how amazing this is. And honestly, for me, I don't think we'll ever get another performance as good as this one because this really just shows the incredible voice that both Matthew and Neil have. And for me, this will always be the greatest performance ever to be done on Glee. So there you have it. That was my top 10 best performances ever done on Glee. And to be honest with you, I'm quite happy with my top 10. This is kind of the top 10 I had in mind. And I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode on the podcast, as well as, wherever you're listening to. I would love to hear your thoughts down below, what your top 10 is. And because, I think Glee is just a fantastic show. And I've been watching more and more of it since I got into it. And it really gives some of the best performances there, and it really truly is a show that I think deserves the credit that it does. And again, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you go download the episode, just leave your thoughts in the comments. Any comments, wherever you're listening to, I would love to hear your top 10, what your favorite performances were, and did I miss any out? I'd love to hear, because I could honestly do a part 2 to this, and I would love to do that. But thank you so much for listening to this episode on the podcast, talking about my top 10, the top 10 best performances ever done on Glee. Thank you very much for listening. If you enjoyed it, please make sure to follow the podcast and download the episode, or if you're on YouTube, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Again, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the podcast, and I will see you guys next time.